Hi there, this is Sascha from Helloween, and today I'm gonna talk about my most favorite artist in the world. And yeah, thanks to you asking me for you don't know yet what artist I'm talking about, but I'm pretty sure you're gonna like it. Um, my favorite artist or my favorite band, which I was starting listening to on the back seat of my mom's car, was the band Toto. Since you've been asking me for picking my favorite artist, and of course Toto, a lot of people know the band, but and the hits that come with the band, like Africa and Rosanna. But what stands out for me is the ballads. So I picked a couple of ballads today. So I know you run metal podcast, but I like to bring up stuff that's influencing me from the pop or rock world, you know. And
yeah.
So
awesome.
Yeah.
So you already mentioned before we go into those, specific songs that you want to highlight. You already mentioned getting to know this band while sitting on the back seat of your mother's car. Tell us more about that.
Whereas she was driving me every morning to the kindergarten and had the radio on, and that was like the first beginning for me to discover music, of course. So it was like 40 or 45 minutes drive, and during the time I would hear those songs and sing along, and so I was really early interested in music from when I was really little, and by that time we're talking, like, I'm born in 77, so we're talking early 80s.
Yeah.
80, 81, 82, and radio stations would play rock music more than they do nowadays. They would play rock music and pop music, and it was all mainstream. And there were bands like Chicago, Toto, Saga. I discovered Jennifer Rush on the radio. I discovered a lot of jazz rock bands, but also a lot of pop artists. I remember when Phil Collins came out with "In the Air Tonight."
Yeah.
I think it was 82, so I was 5 years old, and that had a huge impact on me. Yeah. And Toto, especially because in the beginning I didn't know, of course, what the band's name was, but I always remember the songs, and they would always come up, and so later on, I when I started playing music, so I started singing and playing keyboard and transitioning to the guitar. Of course, I was more into my roots. I was digging deeper about the bands and that I have discovered. Now she's gone, and I have to say, I knew that we would talk about it. I have some vinyls here as well for you.
There you go.
You like a couple of my favorites. So awesome. I love vinyl, and I still got a few, and so I still got a few Toto vinyls as well.
The people that make up Toto, and obviously there have been people coming and going, and Toto is a band that has been around for a long, long time. But if you look at some of the core members, very really good musicians. Steve Lukather is a fantastic guitar player, but Toto is one of those bands that never got lost in showing off how good individually they are and keeping a song front and center, because Steve Lukather could make songs that are 20 minutes with just solo, but they didn't
and he
do
did
that.
Stuff like that. Right? Yeah, and he did stuff like that on his solo work.
Exactly.
That's the thing. What a lot of people probably don't know when it comes to Toto, like you said, the great musicianship, but also they've been studio musicians before. They found Toto, and that was, by the time we got interested in playing instruments and singing it, that was really impressive to know that those guys were playing on the Thriller album of Michael Jackson, for instance, and Diana Ross and whatever, you know, like all the big, they worked with the big producers, like one of my favorite, David Foster. And so even like before I came into metal, that was the stuff I was discovering and that I was into, you know, and then when you grow older, you come back to the roots. And because of that, our shows are metal shows. And the funny part about my band is that almost everybody in the band has like blues or rock roots, you know. So Michael Lukather, for instance, he's a big Beatles fan.
Right.
He loves the Beatles all over, you know, and they've have listened to Deep Purple and all those old rock bands, you know. And a lot of younger bands, they are influenced by already have to be heavy metal bands, you know. So they don't know the roots. Yeah, for instance, and they don't know the roots, and so I'm born in a period where I would have a grasp of the roots as well, you know. I would know about Deep Purple, and I would know about all these people. And since you mentioned Steve Lukather, I think beside Michael Schenker, he's the most influence for me as a guitar player, you know, like the biggest influence. And like you said, it's the hidden musicianship until you start to play this stuff. Like everything sounds so simple, and they have created great hits, and they sound simple, but they aren't. They're so difficult to play, and the compositions are so well made and thought through, and you barely hear anything like that nowadays on the radio. But what I really wanted to pick out for today is the ballads, because I love ballads. I have this romantic heart, you know. So, and they're an example for what you said before. It could off crazy rock album. They did make hard records as well, like hard rock songs and stuff. But the compositions of the ballads are amazing. So there's the first song I would pick is "I'll Be Over You." As soon as my heart stops breaking. Great example for the composition side, the production as well, and at the same time, a typical Steve Lukather thing, you would have like an amazing melodious guitar solo. Those kind of songs would play on the radio with the guitar solo as well, which doesn't happen so much anymore nowadays.
Yeah, for sure.
And although he could pull off like crazy fast shit, you know, he wouldn't do that. He would always play stuff that supports the song. And that's what I like. And that's what I always wanted to introduce in my music as well. Like I'm not a big fan of all the time shredding guitar stuff, which is pretty common in the metal scene, you know. So I would, like, my roots are from melody, you know, like stuff that you can sing along to. And I would rather go for the simple things and the feeling and the sound. Something that you can memorize, you know, and not going for the show off, because for me music is not Olympics and it's more about the feeling. So "I'll Be Over You" is a perfect example.
So let's continue. On that note, what would be your second pick?
My second pick, there's my most favorite album is one of the later ones in the 80s, from 1988, I think, and it's called "Seventh One." And the ballad I would pick, there are two ballads on the album. Both are brilliant, but I would pick "Anna." In the last half of the song, it's great melodies. The rhythm work of Jeff Porcaro is incredible. You know, like everything is so difficult, but it sounds so simple, and it's supporting every. It's like gripping into each other, every instrument. You know, it's so well laid out. And what a lot of people don't know, Toto also produced themselves. You know, they didn't have a producer for the album, so they were the band was the producer for the albums. And that's also very impressive. And that's a great example as well. Anna. There's another ballad that's called 1,000 Years, which is really nice too, because it doesn't have the typical 4 beats rhythm. But yeah, I picked Anna.
What would be your final pick to share with everybody?
Another great ballad. It's called "I Won't Hold You Back."
If I had another chance tonight.
Well, I think it's the only ballad on that album, and I wanted to like pick the ballads from the 80s. You know, they have created great albums in between and also later on. I think also for a lot of metal fans who are like, oh, now he's talking about Toto, blah, and you know, that's so wimpy or whatever. You really should check out Toto, because their later albums, they're much more rock and also prog rock compatible, you know. So if people are into Dream Theater or Rush or whatever, they for sure would discover a lot of great songs they like from Toto, you know. Now that I'm in my 40s, I'm getting very nostalgic from time to time. So and I see those guys are getting old or disappearing somewhere, and it makes me sad, because that's like end of the 70s, all the 80s. That was like the 80s were like had the most impact on me musically, you know. And so sometimes I'm becoming a bit of a old nostalgic dude, you know. So that's when I get out my vinyls and listening to them. But there's so much great music to discover, and I have to say, even in with modern platforms like Spotify, I discover stuff I didn't know about from that era, you know. And then all these great studio musicians that were like Larry Carlton and all those dudes who were around writing and playing for big artists, you know. What I really miss is that you have certain musicians creating a recognizable style. That's not happening anymore, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, there's so much music out there. I don't know everything, but in the last, I can't remember the last 20 years that I discovered something that was blowing me away by the style, and I would say like, okay, wow. Like it's also, and because we know a lot of stuff about metal, like even in a niche like the metal scene, you don't have that. They're like the old dudes. They have a style and you can recognize them, you know. But most of the younger bands, to me at least, most of the stuff sounds the same, you know. And of course I know a lot of that comes down to production and you don't have like the big record companies anymore supporting bands with money, and they would have to promote themselves and whatever, and they would create music in their home studios, you know, and so they use modern technology and stuff like that, and that of course sounds all the same, so it makes sense to me. But where's the next Eddie Van Halen? You know, where's the next Michael Kiske? Or you know, where are those guys coming up? And I don't see that. I see a lot of great concept bands, like they're good with their concepts, bringing that on stage. Like bands like Ghost, for instance. That's a really good concept, and I like that. there's no new Inhalen, or there's no, there's nothing like that coming up anymore. So, and then now you have the whole AI thing coming up, so where you could probably create album covers like this in seconds,
Sascha, I could ask you a million questions and probably talk to you for hours and hours and hours. We're already well over the time that we'd allocated for this
it's
conversation.
always fun talking
so I apologize.
to you. Yeah, it's always fun talking to you. Yeah.
I appreciate that. And so much going on, and we see all the announcements for more, live shows of Helloween, and you're going to continue to be very busy in 2023. That's clear.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we have a great tour coming up. When we're talking about influences in old bands, we have this great tour, Monsters of Rock tour, coming up in Latin America with Kiss, Scorpions, Deep Purple. That's a great lineup, and I'm really excited for that.
This might be one of those last moments to see that package play together.
I was thinking about it.
Tour not to miss for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Sascha, I want to thank you so much for sharing a little bit, opening the door and letting us all in, and seeing what has inspired you, what has influenced you, and it's great to learn about your passion about Toto, a band that there's so much to discover in that band. I don't know if you've continued to follow them throughout their career, because they've released so many albums now, but lots of wealth to dive into. I want to thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it, especially on a Friday, and I hope to see you soon on a stage.
Yes.
You are awesome for watching this video. Click right here to see more content like it, and subscribe to the channel.